this video we're going to discuss the relationship between cosecant, secant, and cotangent with sine and cosine. So you already know that tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent, which also tells us that it's equal to sine over cosine. And so it's good to know the tangent and the these three trig functions, how they're related to sine and cosine. So the cosecant, secant, and cotangent are all called the reciprocal trig functions because they're the three main trig functions flipped over. So cotangent, it's often abbreviated as COT. Cotangent is just equal to 1 over tangent, which means in relation to sine and cosine, it's going to be cosine divided by sine. Cosecant, which is abbreviated CSC, that's the same thing as 1 over sine. And secant, which is usually abbreviated SEC, that's the same thing as 1 over cosine. So it's good to know these relationships. So when we're trying to find the values of cotangent, cosecant, and secant using the friendly angles, we can use our knowledge of the unit circle. For example, if I have cosecant of pi over 4, I can draw the unit circle real quick. Pi over 4 is right here, forms a 45, 45, 90 right triangle. And of course, we know that this side, well, both the sides are the same. They're both 1 over rad 2. But we know cosecant is 1 over sine, so that would be 1 over rad 2. And when you divide by a fraction, you flip it over and multiply, so this would be the same thing as square root of 2. Likewise, if we have a secant of 5 pi over 6, draw my unit circle. 5 pi over 6 is just 1 pi over 6 shy of pi. So it'd be right there with a reference angle of 30 degrees. So that's a 30, 60, 90 right triangle. Secant is 1 over cosine. So that means we want this value, negative rad 3 over 2. We want to flip that over, so that would be negative 2 over rad 3. One more example, cotangent of 225 degrees. Okay, so we draw a quick circle. 225 is just 45 past 180, so it'll be right there. And it forms a 45, 45, 90 triangle. This is going to be negative 1 over rad 2, and this is going to be negative 1 over rad 2, which means cotangent of 225 is just going to be 1, because we're dividing two numbers into each other that are equal.